Oh, howdy.
We offered to cut the cost a little bit if they wanted to mow themselves. Nobody was really that interested in doing that, so we kept it at 60. And then that creates a little bit extra money left over for us, at least, to, this year we're going to buy them a composter. There's some interest in getting a little shed in there to store some of the tools. So we just try to add a little bit each year with a little bit of extra money we kind of make off of it, because it's basically everything that we get, we just try to throw right back into it.
And if you have a question for Greg, click down at the bottom of your screen, hover over the reactions icon, and then click raise hand. Then you can, then I'll know to call on you to ask a question. Now, I was curious, do you ever have to negotiate disputes? Like, are there disputes that people come to you and say, I guess, what do you do when there's disagreements?
The one thing, like I said, with this kind of goes in with that whole emphasis of deal with stuff internally with them. So basically what I said is we got a list of everybody who's in the garden. We got all their phone numbers and we got all of their email addresses. Now we're somewhat unique in that Pleasant Ridge is, 6,000 people. And they all, or not even 6,000, sorry, we're 2,500. So they all know each other, so that helps a little bit as far as accountability. But it's very much, if you have something that you want to address, please contact each other. They're all adults. Obviously there's always those little things, somebody sends you an email saying somebody does this or that, or we saw somebody steal some vegetables out of my garden or whatever like that. Usually I just sort of send out blanket messages, because most of the time we don't have cameras over there or anything like that. It's sort of a lot of the he said, she said type stuff. So it's very much please be respectful of each other's plots. If it got to the point where somebody was just being ridiculous, we would probably have to make more of an investigation of going over there and sort of looking into it and, potentially have to expel somebody. We haven't had anything that's significant. It's just been really minor stuff thus far over the last couple of years. It's been a lot of sort of, just little like people not picking stuff up or not turning the water off after they used it. It's nothing too confrontational, at least.
Is there any kind of structure, or is it just everybody reports to you?
So I'm sort of the city's representative, I guess. So basically the structure is, there's not so much of a structure amongst the people who use the garden. They just sort of, if they have specific problems, they report them to me. But once again, I say, hey, if you've got something that you think, like we've had little issues with, hey, I'm going out of town, what am I going to do about my vegetables? And I say, hey, email the other people in the garden. Chances are somebody can take 30 seconds, a couple minutes to water your plot. And every time I've had to do that, it's worked out fine, because those people are there every day, every couple of days. It's not an issue for them to water somebody else's plot, or some minor little thing like that. So it's, yeah, I mean, generally if there's something that they can't do, say, we had this couple of the hose heads break last year because I think they got left on the ground and got run over. Well, then they contact us and we get them a new one. But generally everything else, we really, really emphasize, it's a community garden, work together. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for Greg?
Like Woody does.
Woody, go ahead.
Yeah, do you, the folks that do pay for a plot, do you have them sign any form of agreement at all? Just so you've got something that shows that they are agreeing to sort of act responsibly and the way you've laid out.
Yeah, I have. We drew up a contract essentially. I think I emailed it to Tom. I don't know, a few weeks ago or whatever. So it's fairly standard. I drew up a set of rules, just sort of basic. Be respectful. That sort of stuff. Just the baseline rules as far as what we allow in there, and then that they're just agreeing to that, and that they will clean up their plot at the end of the year, because that's another big thing. You have a group that you have somebody who's using the plot doesn't properly clean up their space. They leave all their tomato plant, wiring left outside their plot, and then they don't come back, and now there's a big mess for whoever wants to step in next. So it's sort of agreeing to maintain their plot and to be respectful of the other people in the plot or in the garden. And it's just, yeah, it's good to have a record, especially for people who want to renew.
Does anybody else have any questions for Greg?
Hi.
Hello.
Go ahead, Olivia.
Here. I'm actually not in Royal Oak. My dad, who asked a question earlier, is interested in gardening with you all. So I do have a question. I think it will help the whole group. I wanted to just kind of learn from this, kind of like a fly on the wall from your session. Just kind of a comment about some of the stuff that Greg is talking about. I've been involved with the community garden here at Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, Michigan for a number of years. And a lot of what he's saying is, right, like small conflicts, we call it hobbit drama sometimes. If you like Lord of the Rings at all, that might make you laugh. So usually it's small things, but our experience has been with people signing up for plots, to kind of start small with the expectations of how the community will pitch in, because what we've seen with our garden is really some great new ideas coming in, and then just who has what role in maintaining those ideas. So like definitely getting started, having that dedicated group of gardeners sounds like it's working out there for Greg's group. So and kind of just transitioning into having people be responsible amongst themselves. That's definitely all really good stuff. My question though was going to be about how do you handle really big weed problems? Because we have crabgrass, which if you're not familiar with that, it sends these horrible runner roots. And what happened historically was just getting either topsoil or compost from unknown sources, so to say, and just really having to deal with that. And so we have a big crabgrass mat basically at our community garden. And so that's something also, it's a question for me, but it's something for maybe this Royal Oak group to think about too, is just what would be the approach, because it's really hard to produce crops with that kind of a weed problem. So I'll end with that question. Hopefully some of my other comments were helpful.
Is that question for Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg, whatever you want to.
Oh yeah, well, so essentially to what she was saying, I think she's definitely right. So we have the advantage of some of our gardeners have been doing it for a few years, and it kind of stuff tends to shake out with who's going to sort of step up. And there's people who are really into gardening, and then there's those who just want a little extra space with sun to grow some vegetables. So it's a lot of that sort of plays itself out over the course of a year or a couple of years, where certain people will be really extremely helpful and other people just sort of show up and do their stuff. So yeah, that's definitely something that I think you kind of just have to let it go, like let it play out and see who sort of is interested in doing stuff like that. As far as the compost goes, I know personally we haven't had a huge problem with weeds. Like I typed in the comments, we have like a no pesticide, no herbicide policy in our garden, but we get our compost through our DPW department. I'm not sure specifically where they get it is. We just tell them to bring it and they drop it off. But it seems like a pretty good mix of topsoil and compost. But I know when I was researching some of this last year, there are definitely some places that have trouble with the crabgrass and weeds taking over certain parts of their garden. So that's, I think if wherever you guys might be getting that, it would be good to sort of do a little research into the type of product that would be getting delivered, or however you decide to fill your plots.
Okay, and Chris Hartley, go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
go ahead.
Yeah, Huntington Woods gets its compost from Sakura, just like Royal Oak. But anyway, my question is your garden area fenced at all? And if it is, how high is the fence?
So our garden area, it is fenced. So on one side we have a dog park with, I want to say it's probably a 6-foot fence. On the other side, we have the train tracks. So there's a fence that's there because there's train tracks. And then in the front of it, we have, I don't know, it's probably about a 4-foot high fence with a gate. And then in the back is a wall on 696. So it's pretty effective. We don't have a big pest problem, luckily, since we do have a bit of a rat issue on that side of town, but that hasn't really, but it is enclosed, which is something I would, if it's possible at all, is something I think makes a big difference to keeping out, rabbits and squirrels and all that sort of stuff. At least it limits it to some extent.
Okay, Kathy Guest, go ahead, please.
I think Kathy.
Hi.
Question?
Hi, Greg. I had a question. You use the compost from the city, and I'm familiar with using that. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
fine.
Okay, and I'm familiar with using that as well. Although I have been warned, Greg Rassel is actually one of the persons that spoke to us about using compost exclusively with vegetables. He thinks that some vegetables could get burned out. There's too much of something in it, like maybe too much nitrogen. Have you guys had any issues with plants not surviving or not thriving?
So generally, we've actually had a ton of success as far as the stuff surviving. But yes, it is. We do typically we provide 2 piles, one of soil and one of compost, and they kind of create that 2/3 mix in their plot, because they obviously that part of the thing is, yeah, you don't want to overdo it with the compost or with the topsoil. So it's, but if you ever walk by our community garden in July or something like that, all of the plots are just like, they're so overgrown because they're growing so well, which is kind of a good sign. But we haven't really had any problems with, as long as people are watering their stuff. The only ones that have really struggled are the people who like, oh yeah, we forgot about it halfway through the season and it dried up. But we've had a lot of success with sort of that balance of topsoil and compost.
Thank you.
Charlotte Massey, go ahead, please.
So you don't have a communal garden, right? Is it all individual plots, Greg?
What was that? What kind of garden?
You don't have like a communal garden. It's all individual plots.
It's individual plots, and then we have 2 plots on the one corner of ours that we've sort of made sort of a communal like herb garden. So anybody's allowed to plant in there, and it's sort of meant to be, hey, you can plant some herbs, whatever that may be for that particular year, and those are kind of open to whoever wants to take from it and whoever wants to contribute to it. So we just pushed 2 of those metal beds together, so it's like a double bed.
Okay.
And we added that last year.
Okay, I just was wondering because it sounded like, and it's run by the city, right?
Yeah, we are in charge of it, but it's very much a self-sustaining, as far as like, we don't put a lot of money into it other than it's completely, all the costs are covered by the dues. We don't come out behind on it, so to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Greg? If you do, at the bottom of your
Much as-
screen, click that reactions icon and then click the raise hand icon. Did someone say something?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, go ahead.
I can't get the picture, so I'm only on the phone. It took me forever to get that far. So, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, this is Carolyn Ludwig, and I forget what question I'm answering.
Oh, did you have a question, Carolyn?
If I did, I forgot, but I have no way of getting into the actual meeting as far as being able to see anything.
Oh, okay. I'll keep you posted, Carolyn. Now, I had one question for you, Greg. Do you guys use rainwater at all?
We do not. I mean, it's something that we could, I guess, in the future, but no, we don't currently. That is definitely something that we could look. We would personally might look at. That's not a terrible idea because it is completely open. We could add a rainwater barrel, but like I said, everybody just uses the tap we have in there because luckily it was, they put it in there years ago when they did the dog park. But yeah, that's kind of an interesting idea. We were adding a composting this year, but that's one of the things I would suggest maybe adding as an option too in the future for us. Good idea.
Then Chris, go ahead, please.
Oh, yeah, Greg, I'm sorry. If you mentioned the location of the garden, I missed it. Could you tell us again?
Yeah,
where it's
so
located?
if you ever want to go by it, it's on the intersection in Pleasant Ridge of Indiana and Kensington. So it's actually, if you drive all the way north on Indiana, it goes right up to the wall of the south side of 696. And there's a little dirt road there that goes right by our dog park. And all the way at the end of that is a community garden.
What's the main streets near there?
I guess it's 10 Mile and Woodward, kind of.
Okay.
So if you look up like Gainsborough Park on Google Maps, for instance, it's all the way going to be at the very far north part, right where it runs into 696, the wall there and the train tracks. It's called Ridge Roots. You can look that up too. It's right there.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And does anybody else have any questions for Greg? Going once, going twice. Well, thank you very much, Greg. We appreciate you taking the time. Sorry for the hiccups at the start of the meeting there. I know I emailed you the wrong link, so I'm sorry about that.
Not a big deal. And if you guys ever have email, I can type my email in the chat. If you ever have any questions, you can send me an email or something, and I can always get you some more information.
Thanks, appreciate that. And then Greg mentioned he sent me the documents they use for their contract. But after hearing to Greg, I'm going to suggest two next steps. One is we'll have to, our ranked choice vote on which sites we're interested in. But we should probably also find a group of people interested in coming up with some kind of agreement that we'd ask each gardener to sign. And it wouldn't be a legal document, but just what our expectations are to participate in this thing. But if you're interested in volunteering for that, go ahead and indicate that in the chat. If you need to get to the chat, hover your mouse over the bottom of the screen and click the chat icon. That opens up a chat window, and just put in there, I'm interested. Then I'll save the chat as a text file and I can go back and check. If you're interested, we'll put together some kind of document that indicates, what the expectations are if you want to belong to this thing. Yes, Carolyn, go ahead.
Can I get a copy of the chat somehow?
Yes. Yeah, I can send that to you.
You have my email?
I do.
Okay. Thank you.
Larissa, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Tom, I just was going to offer to see if you wanted me to do a Google form with the site locations.
Yeah, Katie Delamore is already working on that, so let's get together with her. Yeah,
okay.
and we'll.
Sorry about that. I don't know why. I thought you were kind of referring to something else. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Anybody else have anything to say before we adjourn?
Thomas is
Yeah,
Woody.
Go ahead, Carolyn. Then we'll get Woody next.
Okay. I did manage to copy something that I found that was apparently somehow from you guys. and it has a bunch of 3 pages. And is that anything that's going to be used for anything? It seems to give a general outline of what we want.
I'm not sure. Tell you what, Carolyn, you got a paper and pencil handy?
Yeah.
Give me a call after the meeting. I'll give you my number. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
248-797-1075. Then as soon as we adjourn, go ahead and
And
give me
who
a
am I,
call. My name's Tom. Yeah,
who am I calling?
Tom, T-O-M.
Tom. Okay.
Woody, go ahead.
All right. That's
No, I was just going to ask Greg if we could get a copy of the agreement that they use as an example for reference.
Yeah, I have that. I'll send that to you.
Oh, you do?
Actually,
Okay,
I'll send
perfect.
that out to everybody. I'll post it in our on our webpage there.
Great, thanks.
So if you are interested in being a part of that, coming up with the code of conduct agreement or whatever we're going to call it, put your information in the chat. And then Katie Delamora and Larissa will come up with a form that we'll use to vote with our feet and see who wants to get dirty. Is there anything else? Seeing none, thank you everybody for joining. I'm sorry for those hiccups. I don't usually do stupid things like that, but I sure did a stupid thing this time, sent out the wrong link. So, but I apologize for that. I won't do that again. And we'll see everybody next time. It'll be pretty soon, like within a week or two, we'll get back together. But thanks everybody for joining. And again, apologize for the screw up. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks, Tom. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tom. Bye.